It's a disaster, but we're still going to have some fun. Okay, everybody make sure you guys can still hear me. Everybody can still hear me? Yeah, I call the sound the Schwarmy sound, Stephen. That is my word for the sound. Timothy Clark, dogs always love you. Always, always, always. That is why dogs are better than people by far. Here we go. Previously on Slay. Billy, Lincoln, and Dragon have set up shop under the Bendleson Bridge, which spans the wide Luminaria River. There, they waited for nightfall, when the nocturnal monsters known as lagrounes will come a-calling. There's a bounty on those lagrounes, a bounty placed by none other than Lincoln's former lawyer, Dillon Cantrell. No one has been able to reach Cantrell to find out why he placed the bounty. But the sun has set, night has fallen. It's almost time to fight. Zwow, zwow, zwow. Most of the lights under the bridge were broken. That was to be expected. Lumencia was a shit pile of a city. Corruption and greed ruled from the mayor's office to the city council all the way down to the sanitation department. In Lumencia, people didn't greet each other with their hands up for a high five. They instead came at you palms up for a payout. The lights beneath the bridge wouldn't be fixed until someone was willing to pay to have them fixed. Not that Lincoln needed light. The haze of Cimarel let him see in the dark just fine. A beautiful night. Half moon dancing off the wide Luminaria River. Cattails and scrubby swamp trees swaying in the light wind. The rich smell of mud, of the moss-covered, rotting wood of Bendelson's ruins. Frogs croaking. A strange little urban ruin oasis within the concrete and steel desert of a city. A night to sit and read. A night for lovers. A night for battle. Because someone, somewhere, sometime had to pay. They should spawn soon, Lincoln said. How many are we expecting again? He'd meant to ask Magda, but Billy answered first. 10 to 15 is what was in the binder, he said. 20 tops. Magda and Lincoln said, That boy pays attention to what I say better than you do, Link. We should keep him around. Lincoln nodded slowly, in answer to both Billy's statement and Magda's comment. Tell me the plan, kid, Lincoln said. Billy didn't answer right away. He scanned the river, the bridge, looked to the van. He took his time. Billy actually thought about what he was going to say before he said it. Lincoln knew that was something he could learn from the kid, but not tonight. Lagrounes spawn from the deepest part of the water, Billy said. They'll gather there, come out as a group. They try to attack in a swarm. We hit them hard. I don't use magic, both so I don't get detected and because you want me to get up close experience doing the dirty work. Dragon is our backup. If things go bad, we go back to the van, use the mess. If things still go bad, we GTFO and come back at it again from a new angle. Almost literally word for word what Lincoln had told him. Lincoln knew Billy was smarter than he was. By a lot. But that didn't make Lincoln feel dumb. He knew where his strengths lie. And the ruins? Lincoln asked. Billy looked to the dark, sagging, skeletal remains of the old wooden buildings peeking up from the water, thick with reeds, pierced by scraggly trees. They won't come up from there. Has to be the deepest part, Billy said. The ruins aren't a factor. Lincoln nodded. That bit was word for word from part of Magda's explanation. Billy was a sponge. Man, it's dark as a bull's butthole out here, the kid said. Mind if I burn a little filament so I can see what I'll be shooting at? Billy didn't have a haze of Cimarel to help him. Magda would have to give him something to solve that issue next time out. Or Ariella. Where Magda made stuff, Ariella bought stuff. Or sent Lincoln out to get magical items. Billy loves sunglasses. Maybe something along those lines. Yeah, Lincoln said. Only use as much as you need. Billy glowed red. A soft glow, like that of a campfire's last fluttering coal. The magic light seemed to make the water's surface luminescent. A sliver of the kid's power, potential, yet it worked like a charm. Out a little bit past the last of the reeds, the water rippled. Pairs of malevolent black dots appeared, barely breaking the surface. You got this, kid, Lincoln said. Fight smart. Remember, they're here to kill you. Let's have some fun. Lincoln drew Bastard Maker and his Kel-Tec pistol. Hatchet in his right hand, pistol in his left. Tizona, his sword, was a superior one-on-one weapon, had better range, but for multiple partner cuddle puddles, his Viking-era Skegaks could not be matched. Billy pulled his shotgun from his back holster. Game on, he said, then looked at Lincoln. I've been trying that tagline out. Game on. Kind of like how you get all butt chafed when some shit goes down and you can't believe how stupid people are and you say, blazing hells. Like that, but game on. What do you think? Game on. Sometimes Billy talked too much. Sounds great, Lincoln said. If this had been a movie or a TV show, Billy would have dramatically racked the slide. But this was real life, and he already had a round in the chamber. He would fire meshwork slugs until the weapon ran dry, then switch to his machete. The kid could holster and draw his weapons quickly. Fast hands. A huge asset in the monster-killing game. Out in the water, Lincoln counted 10 sets of bumpy black dots. Watching, already hunting. Then an 11th and a 12th. The dots crept closer, then rose up. Water coursed off gleaming, dark green reptilian heads. Long maws, slightly open, showed thick, triangular teeth. Not quite alligator heads, but close enough for government work. They made sounds, talking to each other, like croaking bullfrogs, if bullfrogs were the size of lions and were gargling jello shots. Kind of creepy. The creatures came closer, more of their bodies exposed as they walked up the shallows and into the reeds, moonlight playing off their wet, dark green skin, reflecting from water draining off armor made of algae-speckled old tires, rusted metal, fishing nets, muck-covered wood, and other transformed river-bottom detritus. They carried weapons, pitchforks, swords, knives, club, one with a tire iron, all rusted, much spotted, and draped with hanging green algae strands. The closer they came, the taller they grew, as water reached their waists, then their knees. Remember, Lincoln said, don't let them drag you in. Might as well get started. Billy shouldered the shotgun, leaned forward a bit, and fired. The kid wasn't just a brawler. He could shoot. The meshwork slug hit the first lagroon right between its beady black eyes, blowing out the back of its skull in a spray of blood that looked like used motor oil. As the monster toppled away, long knife slipping from its reptilian grip, the others charged, trampling reeds as their big feet splashed through the last shallows. Lincoln heard Billy rack and fire, but he couldn't babysit any longer. A lagroon drove a pitchfork forward. Lincoln sidestepped right, put 3 rounds in the monster's big head, even as he brought Bastard Maker down in a powerful arc that dug into a second monster's neck. Maybe the soggy Mad Max armor could stop some weapons, but not Lincoln's and not Billy's. Lincoln shot the next one twice in the nuts, realized he wasn't sure if lagrounes had nuts, followed up with a hatchet swipe that severed the beast's leg at the knee. Still trying to stab Lincoln with what looked like a rusted-out fireplace poker, the monster fell away. One by one, the lagrounes dropped. But that was the thing with conjured beasties. Plenty of black blood and chunks of bone, hunks of grayish, thick-skinned meat, but no cries of pain, no pleas for mercy. Silent killers they were. "Out!" Billy said. Lincoln glanced right, saw Billy slide his shotgun into his back holster with one hand, draw his machete from its back holster with the other, even as 2 monsters closed in on him. Lincoln started his way, driven by protective instinct, but stopped when Billy's forehand swing lopped off the top of a lagroune's big head just below the beady eyes. A blur of a chained weapon. Lincoln turned away just in time to save his own head from being smashed in by a rusted boat anchor that struck his armored shoulder. 3 shots through one black eye dropped the attacker. A side kick that made a knee bend backward made another lagroune stumble away. A hatchet uppercut dug deep into a third's lower jaw. Lincoln used it like a hook, pulling the head closer, then putting 4 shots into the leathery neck, blowing spine shrapnel out across the cattails. The one with the ruined knee hopped toward Lincoln, holding the anchor in one hand now, its rusted chain dangling. Lincoln started to react, but sensed someone near and also sensed a teaching moment. The anchor swung for his head, but before it connected, a machete blurred down, severing the arm, dropping arm and anchor alike into the black blood mud and trampled reeds at the water's edge. "Break yourself, fool," Billy said, then actually wiggled his shoulders. The show-off didn't see the one-armed, broken-legged lagroune's many-toothed maw open wide and bite for his head. Lincoln's spin kick drove an armored boot into the side of its skull, crumbling the bone beneath like a gator leather-wrapped eggshell. The beast dropped. "Saved you," Lincoln said. "Man, I saved you first," Billy said. Lincoln huffed a laugh, was about to say, "Yeah, in your dreams," but he stopped himself. "Yeah, you did," he said instead. "Thanks, kid." Billy stood straight, black blood-streaked brown cheeks rising in a wide smile. "Really? You mean it?" If the kid was any more earnest, he'd wind up on a motivational poster. That was, of course, if motivational posters featured models with lagroune gore all over their white scale armor. Good thing the stuff wasn't acid. Or poison. Lincoln would have to work with Billy on avoiding spatter. An important detail in monster mashing. But it was a lesson for another time. Let the kid have his moment. "Yeah," Lincoln said. "I mean it. How many did you get?" Billy quickly wiped his machete clean on the fallen lagroune, slid it into his holster. "Wasn't counting." His fast hands started loading his shotgun. "Bullshit," Lincoln said. "Come on, how many?" Billy grinned again. 7. How about you?" "I don't know." Lincoln slid a fresh magazine into his pistol. "Only douchebags keep count." Billy laughed and shook his head. "You lying bitch," Magda said in Lincoln's head. "You always count. The only reason you didn't say it is because you only had 6. The bodies began to sag, to melt like ice cream set out in the hot sun, black goo slowly spreading across the churned ground and trampled reeds, and oozing out into the rippling water like an oil slick of evil. "They just break down?" Billy racked the slide, put in one more shell. Nice. We don't need to call bingos or nothing. Shame all this filament's going to waste, though. Lincoln glanced back to the van, saw a dragon curled into an angry onyx ball at the front bumper. She had obeyed Billy's command to stay. Progress. Link, Billy said. You know more than I do. Is that a problem? Lincoln saw Billy staring out at the river, looked out himself. 20 sets of ice-cold black dots, barely breaking the surface. No, 30. 40. Yeah, Lincoln said. Yeah, that's a problem. In a unified splash, the wave of lagrounes rushed toward the rocky shore. Back to the van, Lincoln said. Dragon, sick 'em. Shoo-ba-doo, shoo-ba-doo, ba-doo, ba-doo. Magda saw what Lincoln saw, which meant she saw the action in bits and pieces, in fast turns, in flashing twists. Dragon was a whirlwind of destruction, biting lagrounes and shaking them so violently that armor, weapons, even legs and arms went flying. Even as she bit, jets of smoke puffing from her nostrils, she swiped, she clawed. She smashed the monsters down into the muck, crushing them into lumps of shattered bone and pulverized muscle. Billy and Lincoln fired, fast and accurate, dropping lagrounes that flanked the whirling dervish of Black Death. Magda tried to keep count, not for scoring purposes or to see who had bragging rights, but to track the tally of power being demonstrated. The sheer numbers of the things. Whoever had conjured this horde possessed power to burn. 40, maybe 50 in the second wave. She guessed half of them were down before she saw, through Lincoln's eyes, the river's surface ripple anew. A spear stabbed into Dragon. She snapped, biting the arms off the attacker, but another lagroune, a big one, landed a club on the back of her head, stunning her. The lagroune reared back for another swing. Half its head vanished in a cloud of meat as Billy's shotgun slug hit home. Dragon, come, Billy said. The sinuous body scurried away from the mostly decimated second wave, curled around Billy, half protecting, half being protected. Well, fuck me, Lincoln said. This is some bullshit right here. Through his eyes, Magda saw another 24 or so dripping, gator-headed monstrosities lumber out of the water, wielding an assortment of weapons. Knives, fire axes, clubs with spikes driven through them, and one ambitious bastard carrying a frigging manhole cover. Link, stop playing, Magda said. Tell Billy to make a beautiful mess. She had actually practiced that line. She felt silly about it now, considering she'd heard Billy say he had practiced his line, game on, which wasn't bad but maybe needed a little bit of work. She'd meant for her make a beautiful mess to sound all action hero-ish, but it came out a little rushed and more than a little worried. Billy, Link said, get on the guns pronto. Dragon, with me. Guard. Lincoln and Dragon planted themselves in front of the van, facing the dripping wet oncoming horde. 24 at least. Through Lincoln's ears, Magda heard the van's passenger door open, then heard the whine of a hydraulic hatch opening and some of the best work she had ever done rise up from the van's roof. Diddle-doo, diddle-doo, diddle-doo. Fighting the army of beasts woven from filament had been fun at first, Billy had to admit. Compared to sparring against Lincoln, the lagrounes seemed to move in slow motion. Billy knew they were actually pretty quick, easily quick enough to take out any normal fighter, but his own speed now shocked even him. Then, those turd stains had stabbed Billy's little baby, hit her in the head with a goddamn club. That's where the fun ended and the anger began. He had felt his limitless rage billow up, felt it like bellows stoking the fire rising up within. But this time, he had not only recognized that swell, he had resisted it. If you don't learn control, you will someday kill everyone around you. He wasn't calm by any measure, but by the same token, he wasn't about to go nuclear and burn everything around him. In the passenger seat, Billy looked through the flat panel sighting scope at the pack of incoming monsters. A pack that looked like the offspring of undead underwater pirates who had hate-fucked reptilian trash collectors. He'd used the infrared option at first, seen nothing, switched to the UV night vision selection next, but he didn't like the way the bridge lights above distracted him. The filament filter, though, that one was just right. Magda made the best stuff. In the screen, every lagoon lit up like a bright purple silhouette. And Billy knew, finally, that those countless hours spent playing Call of Duty had not gone to waste. He flipped off the safety. "Do you want to play rough? Okay, say hello to my little friend." He gripped the targeting yoke, breathed out slow, and pulled the trigger. Diddly-doo, diddly-doo, diddly-doo. Lincoln figured maybe he needed to take a night off from his AA commitment and his diet, because Magda Magdalene deserved a night of pizza, gobbers, and all the booze she could drink. And what kind of a friend lets a friend celebrate alone? Atop the van, a squat turret of twin paintball guns huffed out a steady spray of meshwork balls that traced along the onrushing line of lagrounes. Every impact kicked out a puff of blackening filament, the life-giving building blocks of magic crumbling into dust. In an arc of carnage that would have made a World War I trench machine gunner infinitely jealous, Lincoln watched Billy mow the monsters down. A sweep from left to right, then right to left, then back again, scythed the conjured beasties, turning their bodies into oozing piles of goo dissolving into ash that drifted away on the evening wind. Only one lagoon made it through the onslaught, somehow miraculously avoiding the torrent of destruction. It raised a muck-coated fire axe, started to swing at Lincoln's head. A black battering ram shot out, smashed into the monster so hard Lincoln heard bones snap. Dragon whipped her head to the left, smashed the probably already dead monster into the dirt, then did the same thing to the right, then raised her head high and opened her mouth wide. It took 3 convulsive gulps before the last bit of waterlogged monster foot vanished into her swelling neck. "Dragon, no!" Billy rushed out of the van. "Don't eat that! Spit it out! Right now!" Dragon curled up her lower body and tail, her upper body rising up like some great snake. Her stubby front arms dangled like a dachshund sitting on its haunches, waiting for a treat. The big girl blinked wide, innocent black eyes, as if to say, "Who, me? I didn't eat nothing, Pops." "Oh, no, you don't," Billy said. "This isn't like when you eat your own poop in the backyard. This could make you sick." Billy turned to Lincoln. "Tell her to spit it out." Billy was in such a comical panic, it was all Lincoln could do to hold back a laugh. It was funny because Lincoln had seen Dragon eat far, far nastier things. He felt his stomach churn. He hated reminders of the incident in Inkster. So many butt cheeks eaten. So gross. "Nothing we can do about it now," Lincoln said. "Relax, kid. She'll be fine." Worried Billy looked to Dragon, then back to Lincoln. Really? Are you sure? She just got stabbed. That thing won't make her sick? It was weird to think of a 6'3", 210-pound armor-clad man spattered with the black blood of his enemies as adorable, but that was the only word that came to mind. Trust me, kid, Lincoln said. It's all good. In truth, Lincoln had no idea if Dragon would hold that meal down. If it made her sick, well, Billy certainly wouldn't miss it when it happened. Billy rushed to Dragon, looked at the deep cut left by the lagroune's spear. She gonna be okay, Link? Link, we gotta rush her back to Magna. What do we do? Dragon flopped onto her side, letting Billy examine the wound. Her eyes narrowed, her tongue lolled out, and the very tip of her long black tail thumped on the black blood mud. Bud, Lincoln said, she thinks you're giving her a belly rub. Yeah, she's hurt, but I've seen her suffer way worse. Relax. You kicked some major ass today. Billy ran his hands around the wound's edge. Dragon's tail tip thumped. It was crazy. When Billy gave her a little slap in the van, she had acted like he had torn out her heart and made a cake out of it. Yet here she was with a big gash in her flank, and she didn't even seem to know it was there. Dragons, man. Always so much drama. Hey, Lincoln. The Keltec was in Lincoln's hand before his eyes peered into the darkness, searching the dark, skeletal shards of the long-lost town for the source of the voice. But before he saw the man, he recognized that voice. Dragon was just as fast, coiling around Billy so fast Billy got caught halfway reaching for his shotgun and couldn't draw it. Girl, leave me! Shut up, Walt, Lincoln hissed. Dragon, stay. His hands up, wearing fishing waders with the straps over the... His hands raised, wearing fishing waders with the straps over the shoulders of his sport coat, walked through the bridge's darkest shadows. Sorry, guys, I missed a spot. Here we go. His hands up, wearing fishing waders with the straps over the shoulders of... His hands raised, wearing fishing waders with the straps over the shoulders of his sport coat. Dillon Cantrell walked through the bridge's darkest shadows, his feet tromping through shin-deep water. Don't shoot, he said, lowering his hands. It's me. It's Dillon. He walked out of the water, easing past reeds, stumbled several times on rocks both seen and unseen. He glanced to the water's edge, to the piles of trash that had been lagroune armor only moments earlier. Wow, you guys did a really good job. The wispy blonde hair, the golly gee smile. Most times, that aw shucks charm cut through Lincoln's defenses. Not this time, though. Dillon, Lincoln said, you better tell me what the fuck is going on right now, or I will put a bullet in your dick. The hands went up again. Wow. Just hold on a second, okay? I know this might look a little weird, but I had to find a way to get you somewhere I could talk to you. It's really important. Please, put the gun down. He glanced at Dragon, who shook with anger. And tell her not to eat me, okay? Lincoln looked at Dillon's crotch. Just for a second, maybe wondered if he should put one round, just one, in the guy's dick after all, then holstered the pistol. Dragon, go to the van, Lincoln said. Right now. He didn't yell. He didn't have to. Dragon was Billy's now, no question, but she had been Lincoln's for a long time, and she knew that tone of voice. Dragon serpentined her way to the van, limping slightly now, perhaps feeling the effects of the wound. She curled up, sat down, her big black eyes narrow and focused on Dillon. Lincoln calmed himself, put a few connections together in his head. Dillon knew how to get to the church. He'd been there many times. If he simply wanted to talk, he could have come there. If he wanted to tell Lincoln something but didn't want Magda or Ariella to know, he could have called Lincoln via phone or even orb. He also could have shown his face the moment Lincoln arrived here under the bridge, but he had not. Put it all together, it meant Dillon was acting as an intermediary of some kind for someone else. He didn't want that someone to know where Lincoln lived. Someone who demanded a test of Lincoln's abilities. And or someone who wanted to test Billy's abilities. "Walter," Lincoln said, "meet Dillon Cantrell." Billy and Cantrell had met briefly back when Billy was his small, magically suppressed self. Did Cantrell know the strapping young lad here, covered in lagroune blood, was the same guy? "Hey," Billy said. Dillon smiled at him. "Hi, Walter. Nice to meet you." Lincoln sniffed the air, evaluating Dillon's aura. The man wasn't telling the truth, or at least not all of it. Another connection. Dillon knew who Walter really was, or at least he'd put two and two together, but he played along with the introduction because he didn't want someone else to know the truth. Someone who was either watching from afar or who was already here. "Cantrell, I'm angry," Lincoln said. "You better tell me this important thing you need to tell me. Or better yet, bring out whoever came with you and is hiding in the shadows, or I'm going to get downright pissed. You know what happens when I get downright pissed off, don't you?" Dillon nodded. "Yeah, I know." He glanced back over his shoulder. "Come on out." Billy glanced at Lincoln, then back to Dillon. Billy was both book smart and street smart, yet he probably hadn't guessed someone else was there. He didn't know Dillon as well as Lincoln did. From the inky ruins, the splashing of footsteps. A short man trudged out of the black shadows, a man wearing waders like Dillon. No, not a man. A green-skinned, big-eared goblin. A goblin wearing a red Adidas tracksuit with 3 white stripes down the legs and sleeves. "Lincoln Franks," Dante said. "I know how to get your son off shelf. Let us make deal." Shoo-doo, shoo-doo, shoo-doo. That's it. Yes, David Lamb, you're getting Owen Wilson vibes because that's who the character is based off of. All right, guys, there you go. I sort of know what I did wrong with the Schwarmy sound, and I think I can fix that next week. After 2 weeks in a row, fucking you right in the ear. Daniel Baker, the instant and inkster is not yet an Urban Dictionary thing. But you know what? You're a resourceful guy. You can make that shit happen. I once planned to put many things on Urban Dictionary. You know, the Toledo Wobbler Knob, what was the ride-along? I can't remember. But the problem is, in order to put vile stuff on Urban Dictionary, you have to use your own Facebook profile to log in. And I did not think that the Toledo Wobbler Knob would be a good thing to put into Urban Dictionary using my own name. Tyler Miller says, "I was thinking Owen Wilson meets Nick Cage." That's not bad. That's great. Edward Roscoe, great episode. Oddly having Schwarmy sound withdrawal. Baby girl, come on up whenever you're ready. Yeah. Oh, the Flint crankshaft. There you go. Flint crankshaft, Toledo Wobbler Knob. I'm not allowed to tell you what those things mean because they're very dirty. All right. Well, you know what? We got through that, everybody. I don't know what all that trouble was. The Sheboygan ride along. What is the Flint? The Flint crankshaft, Sheboygan ride along, Toledo Wobbler Knob. Those are the big 3 right there. A is going to come up, and we are now going to do deep cuts. So while we're waiting for A, let me get you caught up on our housekeeping. Here's what's coming up for you guys. First of all, That was Slay 84, episode 84, Under the Bridge. That is going to be in the feed on Sunday, February 16th. Crypt Book 2 draft, second draft is 99% done. I am just down to fill in, spell check, little things like that. I expect to have that out by the end of the week. Sunday, February 16th, Slay episode 83, Swamp Water, went into the feed. Tuesday, I already told you that one. Tuesday, February 18th, Deep Cuts, Information Sharing and Storytelling, went live in the feed. And Tuesday, February 18th, the Deep Cuts you're about to listen to, Scott's favorite books and stories from when he was growing up, goes live. And of course, a week from today, Wednesday, February 26th, Slay episode 85. And then we've got on March 1st, the Junkie Party. Steve the Iceberg Rickyberg's Junkie Party. Go to bit.ly/Junkies Party. There are links to get that stuff there. And while A is getting settled in, let me get you unmuted, baby. Your headphones should be working. Let me turn that off because we have a new sponsor. Not necessarily a new sponsor, but a sponsor that's been around for a long time. Stamps.com. If you go there and use the code Sigler, you save a bunch. Listen to this awesome crap you get. We use Stamps.com every day for our small business because we ship a lot of stuff every day. It's super easy. With that code Sigler at Stamps.com with a new sign up, you get a free 5-pound digital scale, $50 value, shipping and handling fee required. Free $40 in genuine USPS postage coupons. Free $5 instant postage to use in the 4-week trial. So even if you cancel, you get that. Free $5 supplies kit, which includes welcome guide and free postage labels and 20% off all mail and shipping supplies and up to 89% off postage. It's madness. It is a madhouse up in this bizzitch right here. Let's go to window projector. This is usually the stuff I do, but since I had to quit, I forgot a bunch of crap.
Hi, guys. There
you go, sweetheart. I don't know what the colors just shot the fuck. I don't know what happened. It's crazy. It's crazy. We're gonna have to live with it. We are probably the pastiest podcasters in the world. There we go. All right. And that's, you know what? And that's saying something because a lot of podcasters are people who never leave the basement. They play video games all day, but look at us.
Also, a lot of people who record anything, audiobooks, whatever, they're in the dark a lot.
Okay, guys, we're now done. Thank you for your patience during that episode. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Rob and I were debating about the end of it, but I'm hoping that it has you on the edge of your seats to find out how Dante can help get Lincoln's kid off the shelf. Were you?
I didn't expect it. I thought that somebody had. After last episode, I sort of thought somebody maybe had a...
Hold on, baby. Your mic is dead because something crazy happened. Give me a second. Yep. We can hear it fine, but I have to do something here. Go to, where was I at? Settings. Let's put the chat room up and let people just chat in the chat room. I'm going to see if I can fix this for you.
I'm going to try and talk, but my microphone's apparently on. So.
If you can lean over here, honey. I think I got to figure out how I fix that. You can talk right there.
I'm going to lean way over here. Good evening, Sean. Nice to see you. Let's see. I'll keep talking. I will tell you, we are, while he does that, we are pet sitting tonight. One of our, the dogs that Scott calls the nieces, they are, hey, why don't you put us on this camera? It's easier to see. That way I don't have to keep looking back. There we go. We are watching our two nieces, Stella and Cordelia. Cordelia had an accident at the end of January. She had an injury, and so she isn't walking so great right now. So she's the cutest little thing. She's got PJs on, and she's staying she mostly stays in a crate or in a pen so that she can't get around, but she's the most adorable. I'm telling you that to tell you that they're all downstairs, all the way downstairs right now. And normally they're in the room right next to us. So if they get a little barkalicious or anything, I might have to go down. And Scott will continue to tell his stories of his youth from there.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, there's a bark.
Channel 1S's mic. How about this? Okay, try your mic, baby.
Test 1, 2. Test
Guys,
1,
can
2.
you hear A now? Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear A? Tell us in the chat room if you can hear A.
Let's see what we see. No sound from
Yay, it works.
Yay, it works. Okay. Nice
Great.
work. Nice work on the fly.
All of a sudden, out of nowhere, OBS is recording in stereo. So, Steve, good luck.
Oh, no.
Good luck, Steve.
No.
Yep. Okay, let's get this ready to roll. Chat with people while I get this ready, babe.
So anyway, Cordelia and her sister are downstairs. All four of them don't usually cause any trouble. But like I said, Cordelia is a little bit off today or this month. And so she's kind of protected. So anyway, if there's barking, I will go downstairs and take care of them while Scott continues to tell you about his stories and books and things of influence from when he was young. When we were planning on this episode, I said, okay, well, I know a ton of stories. I know a ton of the books that you love. I know a ton of all this stuff. And I listed it. He was like, I don't have all that many. Rob says A seems to be only in the right channel. I mean, that makes sense because I'm mostly always right.
Yeah. Okay. Keep going, baby. I'm working on this.
So
why am I in both channels and you're not? It looks like we're both mono. Are you guys hearing me in both channels?
I don't know.
Well, I'm asking the chat room. Tell me if you're hearing me in both ears. A seems to be in only the right ear. Gosh, I guess I shouldn't have. I'm not sure if I updated OBS or not. I can see right here, baby. You can see I'm jumping there.
And where am I?
You're right. You're on the bottom there.
Yeah, I'm right. Yeah.
Let me see if I can adjust this somehow to.
Yep. There's the dogs. So we'll see what we see.
Properties. Okay, how about now?
How about now?
That might have fixed it. Enable down mixing? Well, let's see. Yep, talk, babe.
I'm talking about the dogs who are already barking downstairs. So we will see what we see.
Did you guys, Scott's in both channels? How about A now? Listen, we got to watch the chat room. We can't tell.
Both are in one ear to Red Jacket Man on YouTube and to Tyler Miller on YouTube. What?
It should be fine now.
It should be one. Yeah.
I'm full spectrum. How about A? A's in both channels now.
Yep, in both channels. All right.
Okay, great. Which means go ahead, babe. Was I only in one ear, you guys, through that whole fucking episode? That sucks. That's really shitty. And now Pam Weber says A is right, Scott is left. Pam, was that old? Pam, please type in again. Pam Weber says perfect. Thank you, Pam. I am perfect. I do try. Okay, great. So at least we'll have the audio for, let me get this. One more thing to switch, you guys, and then we'll get. Thank you so much for your patience today. Sometimes shit goes nuts. The news today was fucking frustrating for me. I'll tell you what, I'm sure it was for you guys too. A has got 2 channels. Check. Now we're not getting anything.
Oh, well.
Check.
Stephen Bloomfield says, watching on the TV, coming from Center Channel.
Good.
You're both coming out of my same iPhone.
All right, so we're now going to... Oh, cocksucker. God damn it. Okay, so we got to fix that. Input, SS mic. What is going on? This is bonkers town. Say something, baby.
Saying something. We, interestingly enough...
There we go. We got it. We're ready.
All right.
Okay. Let's go back to A cam. Boom.
Okay. And then your cam is screwy.
Which cam is that?
That cam is screwy.
Okay, yep.
See, look.
Yep. Hold on, I gotta go here.
There we go. That's better.
You don't win Emmys for nothing, ladies and gentlemen. You don't win Emmys for nothing.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. That's what we do every Wednesday. We do it live. Okay, you guys ready?
I think we are ready.
Oh, they said A was good. The read was on dual channel only when we added A. Hey, man.
I made it wonky.
What is your deal?
It's not the first time. It won't be the last time. Let's be fair.
Hey, bro. Okay. Let's see. Let me get a little closer. Don't be shy. Okay, here we go, guys. Now we're running a little late. So we also set this up intentionally to be a short episode because we knew we would be taking care of a wounded dog today. So we're going to do the best we can, and we're going to get through all of this business right here. Here we go. Set that timer doll. You ready? Of course, we're going in deep cuts now. No story content here. So make sure we're recording. Check. Baby, give me a check.
Check.
Looks great.
Check.
So if you guys want to tap out, because we're not doing story, you can, but I think this will be pretty fun. Here we go. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. When I was a kid, I read all the time. Going to the bookstore or the library was always a big deal. I read at home, on the bus. I hid novels behind my textbooks in class. I could not get enough of it.
So tonight we are going to talk about Scott's favorite stories from his childhood, including books that influenced his writing career, right after this quick break.
Welcome to Deep Cuts, the bonus episode of the Scott Sigler Slices Fiction Podcast, where a sci-fi author and an audiobook narrator discuss things and stuff in the world of fiction and pop culture. I am Scott Sigler, sci-fi horror author known far and wide as the future dark overlord.
And I am A.B. Sigler, audiobook narrator and partner at Empty Set Entertainment. And tonight on this Deep Cuts, we're talking about books and stories that influenced Scott as a kid.
I'm excited. I'm super pumped.
Me too.
Hey, your mom's in the chat room. Very nice.
Hey, Zip, love you.
If you guys are listening to this podcast, we do this live every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. You can join us in the chat room and see us live. Give us your ideas at facebook.com/Scott Sigler, youtube.com/Scott Sigler, or twitch.tv/Scott Sigler. All right, baby, ready to roll?
All right.
Okay.
So as Scott mentioned, we're going to talk about books that he read growing up that influenced him, but we're also going to talk about movies that were influential and stories from his childhood that I have heard a dozen times, that people who attended Sigler Fest heard dozens of times, or several times, and I think are part of the reason that he is the creator that he is today. So we're going to start easy.
Okay.
Seawolf by Jack London.
Let's go to, I should be able to do, hold on here, go to books. Seawolf by Jack London. This was an influential book, not only
Would you like me to read a little?
Yes, absolutely. You got it. Go for it.
First, I'm going to read a little description.
Great. I love it.
The Seawolf is a 1904 psychological adventure novel by American writer Jack London. The book's protagonist, Humphrey Van Weyden, is a literary critic who is a survivor of an ocean collision who comes under the dominance of Wolf Larsen, a powerful and amoral sea captain who rescues him.
We also have an interesting question from Sean Dyer in the chat room, who wants to know, can I tack on the bonus question of the topic? Would you write the sequel to this book or story if allowed? So we're going to throw that in.
Every single one.
Except for the
stories.
Sharp cat. Yeah. So Seawolf is a monumental work in my life. Most of the things I consume, I only analyze it for the nuts and bolts of the story. How is it constructed? How do the acts flow in each other? Are the characters logical, and do they do logical things? And can I or the other creator build into this huge Big Bang summer popcorn movie ending where you are just completely on the edge of your seat? Occasionally, I'll come across a book that philosophically teaches me something that I was not aware of before, was not prepared to handle at that particular time. And Seawolf was a really big one. So I'm trying to remember how old I was. I'm going to guess somewhere maybe 8th grade, 7th to 9th grade, somewhere in that ballpark. And I had read Jack London because of a dog named Wolf, and White Fang, being a huge fan of dogs in general, and growing up in the very snowy climes of northern Michigan, a lot of Jack London's adventurous works in the Yukon, where he had dogs going on in the story, were huge for me. I loved them. Wound up reading The Seawolf, and at that age, I was still sort of contemplating the concept of religion and a higher power and all these things. Because, I went to church as a little kid, went with the family, all that stuff. And then there is a scene, I'm going to say it's a non-spoiler scene. I highly recommend this book, first of all. Highly recommend it. Staggering work of American literature.
And it's shorter than you might think.
It's pretty short. I also say the ending, not strong. He does not stick the landing. But there is a scene where Wolf Larsen, who is the captain of the ship, big, powerful, alpha male type guy, runs this fishing trawler with an iron hand, and he's very, very powerful. And our guy Harvey is not. Harvey is more like along my frame. He's a writer. He's scrawny. He doesn't belong there. And while Harvey is arguing philosophy with Captain Wolf, what happens is at some point, Captain Wolf just grabs Harvey by the neck, lifts him up, and starts choking him with one hand. And this is during them having an argument about religion, afterlife, higher power, etc. And of course, Harvey can't breathe. He's starting to claw at the fingers and kick and doing everything he can. And Captain Wolf is just like, but if you believe deeply that you're going to heaven and you'll be saved, why are you fighting? Why are you fighting if you know 100% that you were in the right? And this is foreshadowed in the conversation. It makes sense. And it was a real thunderbolt for me as a young person to have that concept. And I'm like, why do extremely devout people, when they get into a dangerous situation, pray to be saved? Why is there no atheist in a foxhole? If you truly believe in your faith and your religion, you believe in an afterlife, you should be thrilled you're going to get killed. Because the longer you live, the more chances you have to stray from the path. Then you die and you wind up in hell.
Yeah, it's sort of a bookend to Pascal's wager, right?
I'm not familiar with Pascal's wager.
You are. You just don't know by that name. It's the idea of somebody who says to you, but I know my God is the real, true one God. This is the God. That all these documents, all these gospels tell me so. And Pascal, Blaise Pascal, was sort of like, okay, I just believe in one less God than you do, but there are hundreds that you don't believe in. And the argument goes, well, would you be willing to be wrong? Mm-hmm. And that's the argument. Because if you're right and I'm wrong, I don't believe there is a God. And if you're right and you do believe there is a God and he is all powerful and all loving and all that, he will forgive me for challenging his belief because he made me this way. So what is the point in subjugating?
What is the point? What is the point? So this was a huge book. I'd already read the Bible cover to cover, and it was a lot of plot holes in the Bible. If you're a writer, a lot of plot holes. And then I came across a Seawolf, and it was a philosophical moment of logic where I'm like, yes, I don't think any of this stuff is for me because it doesn't make sense based on how devout humans react when they are in danger. So Seawolf's hugely influential.
Moving on, also an absolutely world-changing vision, 1976, King Kong.
King Kong. This is a massive, massive moment in my young life. My dad, the first movie my dad ever saw in a theater was the original King Kong, and he saw that with his dad, and just the two of them went to see this movie together. So just in a quirk of fate, a chance timing, when the 76 King Kong came out, I had never been into a movie theater before. And my dad was able to take just little old me. Mm-hmm. And for once, it was something that didn't involve my brother. I have an older brother, firstborn male in any family. Many families in America tends to get a lot of preferential treatment. Jude, I know, is in the chat room. He doesn't know anything about that.
I know nothing. Actually, probably not.
And so I got to go to a movie theater with my dad all by my little self. I was this big. We go into the theater and I'm having a great time. We get all the treats, get the popcorn and stuff. We're watching.
Oh, it was a whole event.
And I'm, let's see, 76. So I am 7 years old. I'm 7 years old and not entirely able to discern fantasy from reality. We go see this, having never seen a movie before. Lights out, special effects, and there's this scene where Kong comes out of the jungle, the big reveal, and starts banging on the door to this bamboo fortress. And I all but shit my little 7-year-old pants. And I'm like, I want to go. This is terrible. And Coach is like, yeah, we're gonna stay right here. We paid for this, so I had to sit and watch it.
You wanted to come to the movies.
You wanted to come to movies with Pops. And he laughed and he thought it was hysterical. We're going to get to some more of him in a second. He's very influential here. And I cried through most of the movie. And then we left and I was still crying. I'm walking out like my little hand's holding Dad's hand. And as soon as we got out of the doors back into the lobby area where you buy all the snacks, I asked him when I could go see it again. And that is when I knew I wanted to do something like that. At that moment, I realized it was cool to have a safe scare, and it was awesome and thrilling. And I decided that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
That was a lesson that absolutely stuck with you.
It really stuck. So that was the moment. 76 King Kong in the theater it might have been the Goldfront Theater in Sheboygan, Michigan, where I decided what I wanted to do with my life was scare people.
So one sad fact, one fun fact. Sad fact first. In this movie poster, King Kong is standing on the World Trade Center, which no longer exists in this fashion, the Twin Towers. And very fun fact, do you know who played Kong?
Who played Kong?
Mm-hmm.
I do not.
So it is storied that the Kong in this movie was a 40-foot tall robot, essentially, or animatronics, essentially. And while that was built and did exist, it pretty much only comes into play in the movie when he's in New York and being revealed. And you can Google that moment and you see the whole robot. For 99% of the movie, Rick Baker,
Special effects god
Rick Baker played Kong.
He's the one
in the suit because
Fantastic.
he was doing a lot of the makeup, the transitional makeup, and what it was supposed to look like, and he knew it really, really well. And they needed an actor, so it's fascinating that his whole storied career in movies starts in around 1981 with an American Werewolf in London.
I just turned on the webcam.
1968, or I'm sorry, 1976, I don't know why I said 68, he was making this movie. Are you fussing with this for a minute?
Yes. Taking a pause here. When I restarted, I forgot to start this thing we've got called the, let's go to yours first. Chrome. It's a app that modifies your camera so it looks better, and I forgot to do some basic stuff to it.
We've been having a day, you guys.
That's why we were so effing pale, because we didn't have the it's been a hell of a day at Caesar.
A hell of a day at Caesar.
Left cam, hold on.
But I love that little fun fact, because I don't even know if he's credited in the movie. But, since Everything Lives Forever and all the documentaries and everything about that, and about his career that came out and was confirmed. I love that so much.
Yeah, he's an amazing, amazing dude. Turn off the zoom. Back to here. Okay. Let's get see, now that looks way better. All right, Steve, we're gonna cut all this shit. Okay, ready? Go back to books. All right, and now let's pick it up. And
so moving on, number 3 is a story from your childhood, not a story you read or saw in your childhood. And the note you gave me was Coach's Lies.
Coach's Lies. Coach's Lies.
Oh my!
To tie in everything, here is a picture of me on graduation day from Sheboygan High School. My National Honor Society medal all around me, and my whatever those yellow cords are to signify Honor Society. Got good grades, smart boy. On my left there is my mom, and I was taller than my mom, which is crazy. Took so long to do. And on my right is Coach Sigler, who some of you who are diehard fans may be familiar with. He's a liar. He is made of lies. This man you see standing to my... Oh, sorry. This man who is my... Steve, got to cut that out because we're working on the video thing.
Yeah.
This man who is my father lied to me all of the time when I was a child. We would be taking drives, like we're going on vacation. Of course, my ass is in the back seat, reading a book, squirrely little giant head, tiny pencil neck, crazy hair sticking out all over the place, 5 head, as Rob in the chat room points out. And as soon as I would get settled in, Scott, did you see that? That was Bigfoot over there. And I'd go, where? You go, right over there. Oh, you just missed him. And I bought all of this, and I would get so mad. I was like,
how many times are we talking
If it was night, how many times? Hundreds.
What? Okay.
Hundreds of times. Oh, it gets way worse. So we're driving, and he's like, Scott, look at that UFO. And I look up, oh, you just missed it. And you could tell he was laughing his ass off, but keeping it quiet, because he enjoyed lying to his little son, who had no way of knowing this wasn't a fact. And that started to spur my imagination. So I started to literally, when we drive, look out the window all the time, constantly looking for the monster, the Bigfoot, the dragon, the UFO, the thing in the clouds. And then as soon as I would take my eyes up, you go, Scott, oh, you just missed it. No. And then I think I got, when I was about 7-ish, 6, 7-ish, somewhere in that ballpark, I started to be like, I don't think you're telling the truth. I don't think there's any, that's my impression of myself. I don't think there's anything out there. I think you're lying, Dad. And that's my brother jumped in. My brother, who was 2 years older than me. So Dad would go, oh, Scott, did you see that? Did you see that 3-armed cougar out there? Oh, you just missed it. I don't think that's a real thing. My brother would go, I saw it.
Oh, no. Okay.
I saw it, Scott. And would draw 2 more years of lies, constant lies.
There's several things afoot here. Number one, oh my goodness, did it take you hundreds of times?
No question. Yep.
Why?
Well, you might say I'm book smart.
Okay.
But maybe not all that street smart. Maybe I shouldn't be in the con game because I'm probably not going to fare very well.
Yeah,
in the
you're
con game.
not a great liar, actually.
I'm not a great liar. No.
Great storyteller, not a great liar. And the second thing I was going to say there, because I must, as I'm sassing you, is confess that at that same age in my life, my mother played a game with me and my brother when we were in the car called Let's Think About Things in Our Mind. See who can last the longest. And that worked on us for a very long time. So while I have a stone, I'm not throwing it. Okay.
Okay.
So we have to take a quick break.
Okay.
If you have a minute, listen to any ads that pop up. There's only one or two, and it really helps the show. And we'll be right back after this.
Okay, let me get back up here.
Welcome back to Deep Cuts.
Welcome back to Deep Cuts.
This episode, we're talking about books and stories that influenced Scott as a kid. So, moving on.
Okay.
I know we're jumping all over the place, but just keep in mind all of this was in Little Kid Scott time.
Little Kid Scott.
This one's a big departure. Number 4 is Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Now, those of you who did not go to high school with me or know me as a child might be surprised to hear I sometimes have a very snooty attitude whenever anybody makes me do a thing. Everybody's like, this is the best album ever. Everybody knows it's the best album. I'm like, how about you kiss my ass? I don't have to listen to your artistic foo-foo, hulu-bulu bullshit. So, of course, when I was an aspiring young storyteller, hadn't decided an author yet, and people would be like, okay, we're going to make you read this book. And in school, most of the times, books were very dumb. The books they would make us read were very stupid. I knew I could do better because I knew everything. And I was annoyed consuming all of this Shakespeare and Hemingway and all this other crap they made you read. So then they come out with, I had to read this thing called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And right off the bat, young me is like, look at this pretentious BS title. This is going to be so dumb.
Was this before or after you saw the subhead, which is Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, an inquiry into values?
I'm pretty glad I didn't see this subtext because I probably wouldn't like it now. I would have been like, that's it. It's too much.
Yeah.
I'm maxed out. And Daniel Baker in the chat room says Dale Rieger's class. And Dale Rieger was a phenomenal teacher, had a huge influence on me. So I read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And there's a bunch of crazy stuff in it, but there's like a side story going on in there, right? The post-apocalyptic side story.
Do you want me to read a little description?
Yes, please.
The book is a fictionalized autobiography of a 17-day journey that the author made with his Honda CB77 motorcycle from Minnesota to Northern California, along with his son Chris, in 1968. The story is a journey recounted as a first-person narrative, although the author is never identified. Father and son are also accompanied for the first 9 days of the journey by close friends, John and Sylvia, with whom they part ways in Montana. That is, on its surface, what it's about. But it is, Persig, the author, Robert Persig, explained that despite its title, it should in no way be associated with the great body of factual information relating to Orthodox Zen Buddhism, nor is it very factual on motorcycles either.
Anyway, so I read this book. And I've never read it since, but thought it was pretty awesome. And I was really blown away in that I came into this book with this huge chip on my shoulder. I know what I like. I don't need you to tell me what I like. I don't need you to tell me what to do. I can figure things out for myself. And if you old people like this thing, it's probably stupid. And then I read it and just really, really, really dug it and thought it was awesome. So that was a huge lesson for me that, you know what? Maybe I don't know everything and I have to give things a chance.
Do you have any idea? Was that the first time that
No,
you
it was
had
the
to tell,
second.
and do you remember what the first one was?
The first one was we had, I think it's Mrs. Pletcher was the teacher's name, and she was English. And so, of course, she was English, so she loved Shakespeare, and she was our English teacher. So we had to read Shakespeare all the time. And I was such an asshole. I would frequently make comments in class like, well, we had a revolution against you guys, so I don't read your shit. How do you like them apples? English person teaching English teacher. silly old dumbass teaching English. Shit
Pretty
that you
sure
come
you
from.
didn't say any of these
No,
things.
I didn't. But I thought these things, and she knew I was thinking those things. And then we had to watch a Romeo and Juliet, and I'm like, this is gonna be the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my whole life.
The
Except
Zeffirelli one. Oh.
Juliet had quite a rack.
That
And
you got to see.
yeah, and then she like hangs out her thing, and I'm like, wait a minute, maybe I'm interested in this. And then the fucking whole thing is sword fights. Like there's sword fights and gang fights and shit. And I'm watching this, I'm like, I may have misjudged Shakespeare. This is awesome. If they throw an explosion in this thing, I'm going to be over the moon, but I'm okay with just the sword fights and people getting stabbed and dying. I'm like, this is fantastic. So that was the first one. Then Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance got me.
Did you confess this turn of events to your teachers?
No, never.
No.
Never. I never admitted I was wrong.
Hopefully either one of them will see this
I'm
someday.
pretty sure now, being older, I'm pretty sure that Mrs. Pletcher completely understood when I was starting to get mesmerized by the written word and actually read Shakespeare stuff. She was like, oh, I've got you. You were such a persnickety little scrumbuggin, and now I've got you.
Why she sounds like Paddington? Oh, because they're
She's
both English.
Maybe it was like this. Oh, I've got you now. You persnickety
Well, now she sounds
scumbuggin.
like Mrs. Doubtfire.
All right, Jesus. Okay, I can't do her. She was this big. I can't do her voice. All right, let's move on.
Moving on, yet another very, very influential moment for Scott. Aliens.
Saw Aliens in the Goldfront Theater, or might have been the other one. Danny, tell me if it was the wrong one. Danny's in the chat room. I went to high school with Danny.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the chat room. And we saw this in the theater, and I was just blown out of the water. It was the greatest thing I had ever seen. Special effects, acting, story arcs, and just barely being able to draw a breath toward the end of the movie over and over again. Like literally remembering like, oh shit, I have to breathe. It to this day remains the single greatest movie-going experience of my life. I have watched that movie now over 200 times. It is the seminal work that is the touchstone of everything that I do. There's nothing that I write where I'm not thinking of James Cameron's storytelling style, which was brought home by this movie.
Yeah.
So it was sensational. I remember being in the theater with Dan, and Dan and I are like scrunched back in our seats, like our hands up like this, and it's near the end before Bishop gets, his issue. Before he gets bishoped, and people are walking out, and I'm like, that's not over. Don't go. And I'm like, how do people not know how do you not see this is not over? Something awful is going to happen. And something awful then did happen, which this movie began my love affair with James Cameron's work, who I think is James Cameron and Quentin Tarantino. Without a doubt, those are the biggest influences on everything that I do.
Yeah, and I do think that Aliens, if you read Scott's work, you see it. You see the cinematic nature of the act endings or chapter endings or anything like that. And I think a lot of that, at least for me, I can see quite a lot of that in your writing.
Yeah.
More than a lot of other, and certainly more than almost any other Cameron movie. And then I also see the earlier Tarantino in your storytelling. The later Tarantino's crazy pants.
It's a little bit crazy pants. All right. And Dan is right. That was the Kingston Theater where we were going to see movies for $1.75.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. All right. What's the next one, baby?
The next one is I wanted to talk a little bit about game mastering Champions. Champions was an RPG. I'm going to read you guys a little bit of a description, but it was contemporary to D&D back in the day.
Okay.
Champions is a role-playing game first published in 1981 by Hero Games, designed to simulate a superhero comic book world. I would also like to note that both Scott Sigler and Rob Otto, if I'm not mistaken, have written modules for this.
This is correct.
This game.
This is correct. And Rob Otto is my co-writer for Slay. We are on book 3. If you guys are listening to this in a podcast and you've not listened to Slay Season 1 or Season 2. Season 1 is actually now out as an audiobook and as an ebook and is soon to be out in print. Season 2 is going to probably be out later in 2025, and we're in the middle of Season 3 right now. 84 episodes you can actually listen to of Slay. I've co-written with Rob Otto. Rob Otto also has written for Champions, as you've mentioned, the super role-playing game. Champions was amazing because me and Rob and Dan and all of our friends in high school, We played Dungeons and Dragons. We were started on that by Scott Christian, one of our high school friends.
Mm-hmm.
And we all took turns being the dungeon master and writing adventures for D&D that we'd all get together every Friday and Saturday afternoon and play this stuff. But Champions, being a huge comic book nerd at the time, for me, Champions being more modern resonated a lot more. And I ran a Champions campaign I think lasted like 5 years with Danny Baker's character Morningstar and Rob character's Doc Rock. And being able to write the stories, refine the stories, run the stories with my friends sitting right at a table with me, and I could watch their reactions. I could see their physical reaction, their facial reaction. I could listen to their voices when I started dropping plot twists, when I started dropping bombs on them, and when they would find out who the big bad was, and all of these big reveals. I got to literally watch my audience react in real time. The reason that was so influential is I started to develop a sixth sense about what kind of things in the story are absolutely going to resonate with people. When I write stuff, I can see the reaction on your face. I can feel your pulse pick up. And even if you know I'm pulling your strings, I know how to make you want me to pull your strings. Mm-hmm. And that is because of Champion Role-Playing, game mastering for that.
In the chat room on Twitch, Habadake says we played so much Champions in college. I mean, more than we actually spent time in classes. Such a good rule set. And that seems to have been the case for you as well.
It was an amazing game. It's still around, but back then, this is really, really good video games, you know? So it was an amazing way to get together with your pals and do something other than drinking and drugging.
I do believe the last module or the last update or whatever came out in 2010.
Last update Champions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I might be wrong about that, but that's what I was doing some research today. I saw that. Okay, next up, going back to an actual book,
okay,
is Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey.
Dragonflight, Anne McCaffrey. Yes.
This is the first book in the Chronicles of Pern.
Chronicles of Pern, Anne McCaffrey, fucking straight gangster legend in the world of sci-fi. This series captivated me, not from the writing style, the characterization. It's a bit of a hero's quest. Mm-hmm. The hero being the woman who winds up riding the golden dragon that sort of rebounds the population of the dragons. I had never seen or experienced anything like this in my young life. It's a little sexy.
Oh.
There's a little heat going on.
Uh-oh.
A little heat going on.
Oh, Lord.
And things that I now know are fantasy tropes, like the character Fëanor, F''N''O'. And before he became a dragon rider, his name was Fëanor. But when you're a dragon rider, you get to condense your name. So visually looking at it, I'm like, oh, that's a dragon rider, not just a person. I started to subliminally pick up a couple of the techniques for writing a fantasy world, how to world build, how to be consistent, how to set things up and progress them. And then I got to the backstory of Dragonflight and Dragon Song and Dragon Quest and all the different stuff. She has just 3 trilogies, the Dragon Flight trilogy, the Dragon Singer trilogy, then a couple other Pern stories. And eventually, spoiler alert, I get to the part where she goes through the entire genetic engineering to create the dragons, because humans have landed on a planet, colonized the planet, did not anticipate this recurring threat that shows up every, I think it's 65 years. Mm-hmm. So it was long enough for the people to get on the planet, everything to flourish. And then this moon, this rogue moon comes by and it launches this microorganism called Thread, which travels through space, lands on the planet, and starts to reproduce like a fungus at high rates and threatens to kill everything on the planet. So these people on this planet have to find a way to fight this thing. And of course, the planet has some natural immunity to it and a thing called fire lizards, which are these little tiny cute little things that breathe fire, which burns a threat. And once I got to, after years of this, after 7 or 8 books and reading this, and then when she revealed what the whole backstory was, I think at the end of the Dragon Singer, the 3rd book in the Dragon Singer, which is like the 8th or 9th book in the whole world, my jaw just hit the floor, because she had worked out hard science, biological theory, various generations, genetic engineering, animal husbandry had figured out all of this stuff before she ever wrote the first book, which is a medieval fantasy with none of the tech. And everybody in the book has no idea the tech ever existed. And it completely blew me out of the water. You can see the influence of this on my novel Aliens Phalanx, which is a very similar setup to Dragonflight. And you can see it a little bit in my Generations trilogy, where the people who are characters, we start the story with the characters who really don't know what's going on. There's all of this technological, sociological backstory that they don't know about, so we don't know about it. So Anne McCaffrey, straight up legend, one of my favorites of all time.
Anne McCaffrey was the very first book reading I ever went to. I was in the 7th grade. She was doing a library tour, and my mom took me to hear her read and answer questions. And for me, it's crazy because I ended up marrying an author, but also she had pink, purple, and blue hair. She was white-haired by then and had pink, purple, and blue hair, and it was the coolest. She was the coolest thing I had ever seen, and I was like, this is fantastic. I'm absolutely going to write. And then I am not at all creative, so I joined the newspaper at my school instead.
All right. So big fan. If you've not read those, they stand up extremely well. The first 2 trilogies are sensational. I highly recommend them.
All right.
What's next?
Next on our stories that influenced you is Terminator, directed by James Cameron.
I'll be back. I don't remember which of the boys I saw this one with, maybe all the boys, but that was also at the Kingston Theater. And James Cameron movie, and just absolutely sensational, the storytelling. Watching the very simplistic storytelling, watching someone play with time travel, which I still to this day hate. To me, time travel is the playground for lazy writers and lazy creators, because it almost never pans out. It almost never works. Terminator has some time travel, and it does get a little bit of time loopy, but
it gets timey-wimey, yeah.
It gets timey-wimey, but the whole thing from top to bottom, just, I was, again, with his storytelling style, I was just breathless through the whole thing. Had to go back and see it. I bet we saw Terminator 5, 6, 7 times in the theater. There wasn't a lot to do in our town.
And in general, back in the day, it wasn't, hey, do we want to go to the indoor skydiving or even the laser tag, or do we want to watch movies, play video games at home? There wasn't a lot of that.
And where I grew up with my buddies, it was Sheboygan, Michigan. And when Terminator came out, there was not a lot to do in our town. That is why D&D and Champions were so influential on us, because we could get 6 to 12 guys together. We'd be some mom's house. We're supervised. They know where we're at. We're not out gallivanting, drinking and drugging and doing risky stuff. And that was huge. But we did have at one time 2 movie theaters, and that got down to 1 movie theater. And we would get movies sometimes first week, sometimes second or third week. But what happened was, if it's a very popular movie like Indiana Jones, Terminator, Aliens, it would be held over. So the only thing to do in our town was to go watch a movie, and we'd have the same movie in the theater for 4 weeks. 1 movie, 4 weeks in the 1 theater we could go to. So we would just go to them over and over and over again. And that is why we saw Terminator many times, Aliens many times, can't count the number of times we saw Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom. All fantastic stuff. But James Cameron, storytelling style, Terminator, Aliens, hugely influential on me.
All righty. So our last topic, or our last book or series of books, is the Tripod series by John Christopher. I'll admit, I knew nothing about this until this morning.
A little known YA series. I don't know if YA was a term at the time, but this is a young adult series. So these are 3 kids that I guess are probably somewhere between 9 and 12, I think. And this is a science fiction trilogy where aliens have already come down to Earth, conquered Earth, and you have these dome cities because the aliens live on a different atmospheric composition than we do. But they need to take over this planet to live here. So they build these dome cities full of the gas they can breathe that we can't really breathe. And they've completely conquered everything. And it's up to these 3 plucky kids to kind of figure out a way to break the back of the aliens. And it ends with a big bang. And the thing that blew me away about the series that influenced me for the rest of my life was the aliens have conquered Earth. All of humanity is subjugated. All nationalities, races, creeds, colors, everything. Everybody's working together to defeat the aliens. They are the French resistance across the globe. And then they finally defeat the aliens. And our three plucky kids are integral to defeating the aliens. And there's an epilogue. And the epilogue is the thing that got me. In the epilogue, there is the first UN meeting, or the first, meeting between all of the countries that finally have their own territory back, their own language, their own culture. They're not enslaved. They're not indentured anymore. They all get together. And in the very first meeting between all of these people who all work together, the bickering begins. The French and the Germans and the English start jawing about, well, if you won't respect this, we have all of these weapons we got from the aliens. And the French are like, we also has the weapons you got from the aliens. And the Italians are like, hey, we got the weapons, eh. And I'm like, as a young man, I was still kidding, I'm a young man. I'm like, they are literally bickering amongst themselves and threatening territorial expansion, all these other things. And the aliens, like the ashes of their burned bodies, aren't even cold yet. And that was a moment in my life. I'm like, this is how it would really go. There aren't really happy endings. There are only pauses on Armageddon and temporary halts on disaster. And so therefore, that series was extremely important to me. It's the Tripods series, John Christopher. The first book is The White Mountains. It might be a little tough if you are over the age of like 20 to get through, but I do think you would enjoy it. It's very straightforward.
You mean because the language is simple?
It's just because Christopher, I felt, was very good at capturing what it's like to be 9.
Oh, okay.
And being a 9-year-old resistance freedom fighter up against absolutely impossible fucking odds. I felt he did a really good job on that. I may have to go back and revisit it, but it's phenomenal. If you've never read it, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'd never heard of it until today. Okay, so I believe that is it for us for this week. We have a new production meeting for our weekly meeting, slated for Friday. Our first one's on Friday. Would have been good to have today with all the technical difficulties. But we don't know what our topic for next week will be, but you will see it early in the week when we let you guys know.
You will see it in the feed. Thank you so much for listening to our efforts. We appreciate you, and I think that is it for us tonight.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Thank you guys so much.
Now, I learned from last week. Stop, save. I don't turn everything off. So
I know, he turned everything off. I wonder if that was part of the problem, that you just shut everything down and you normally do post or whatever.
No, there's something else going on. We've done this now. We've been doing this since 2019. We've done literally hundreds of these goddamn episodes.
I know, and we quite literally scheduled our first production meeting for later this week.
Yeah, well, last week, I don't know if you guys saw last week, we knew the topic. We are very good. We interact very well from an entertainment perspective. This is basically a talking head show, right?
Yeah.
And so we agreed on our topic. Everything's fine. And then even though we agreed on the topic, I had one vision of the topic. A had another vision of the topic. And when we hadn't discussed the vision with each other, and the second we went live, we were just like this.
Yeah,
and then
we're trying at loggerheads a little bit.
We're trying to like quietly communicate with each other. Like, where are you going with this? And she's like, I have this planned out. And it was, so now Fridays we're gonna like spend a little bit more time going like, you're gonna say this, because the goal has always been to keep it fresh. A's going to ask me stuff, and I know the topic, but I don't know what the questions are going to be.
Yeah, and we always want to entertain you guys, and so it's, we can't just, I can't just keep asking him questions every single week, so I was trying to mix it up a little bit, but now we're going to have a production meeting where we also check our software and stuff, so that you don't struggle right when we go
Michael.
live, which isn't fair.
Night, Dan, a little bit, tiny bit below scratching the surface, so we know what each other's talking about. And yeah, this was weird. It must have auto updated and a preference changed. But now everything seems to be working. So
everything seems to be working. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. Thanks so much for joining us.
You guys are all fantastic, and now you can all I got the hiccups. Why do they always give me the gas, these people? Why must you people always give us the gas? Who remembers third base? The gas face. Anyone? Anyone third base? No? Okay. All right. That is it.
By your face, no.
Third base, rap band of the future. No, I can tell by your face. No. Love you all. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.